Assalamu alaikum and very good afternoon to you all. Welcome to online classes for the subject science in the grade 6. We are going to study the lesson 2 plants with the pages 40 to 42. We are studying this lesson from the chapter 1, that is classifying living things. So let's see what are the learning objectives of the today's lesson. Here are the learning objectives where you are going to know about what are some plant life cycle of moss plant. Also, you will be going to see about how seed plants differ from the seedless plants and do plants store their food. We are going to see here in the today's discussion. So let's see the pages where we are going to study from the 40. What are some plant life cycles? Particularly here we are going to talk about the life cycle of moss plant. Also here the how seed plants they differ from the other plants. Here you are going to see about the life cycle of a gymnosperm, where the female cone and the male cone they are going to be get how the fertilization and how these plants get reproduced in this case that we are going to see here. So here you are also going to talk about the last part of the lesson, that is about how do plants store their food. So let's see about the moss life cycle of this plant, where before talking about the moss plant, let me tell you about what are some plant life cycles. Where mosses and ferns are seedless plants, they use spores to reproduce. These, particularly the life cycle of mosses and ferns, have two separate stages. During one stage, asexual reproduction, the plant produces spores. This is called sporophyte stage, and the plant needs only one type of cell, the spores, to reproduce. The other stage in the life cycle of this plant is the sexual reproduction. This stage is called the gametophyte stage, and in this stage, the plant needs male sex cells as well as the female sex cells in order to reproduce, and the fertilized egg will develop into a sporophyte. The process of plant going from asexual reproduction to sexual reproduction during its life cycle is called alternation of generation, and many kinds of plants have alternation of generation in their life cycles. So you can see here in the particularly about the plants where we are talking about the moss plant life cycle, where you can see the spores which are going to make the new plants, that is the new moss plant you are going to see here, from the spores to new moss plants. Then you can see here the leafy moss plant is here, where the male branch as well as the female branch is seen here in this picture, where this is the male reproductive organ, whereas this is the female reproductive organ, and this get fertilized here. So here is the ovary where this goes and get fertilized here. So you are finding here the fertilized egg here, and from here it goes to the spore case, and furthermore it comes to the spores. So from the spores is very important here in the life cycle of moss plant, because here in this, as I told you, that these plants they get reproduced with the sexual reproduction, or as well as there is a asexual reproduction in this kind of plants. So here we can see the stages of moss plants as the plant reproduces and have life cycle. That is, one stage is reproduction, whereas in another, that is of the plants, where the two stage of reproduction is there. First, in the first stage they form the gametophyte stage, and in another stage, that is of the sporophyte stage. So here the plants with the different stages, like the gametophyte stage and the sporophyte stage, you can see these plants they get developed, they get reproduced by this way. So as I told, when there is a reproduction, the process of plant going from sexual reproduction to asexual reproduction during its life cycle is called as alternation of generation. This is what we can see here. So now here you can talk about the another plants where the this how seed plants they are differing from the seedless plants. So here is the female cone, what you see here in the picture. Another is what about the male cone here in this picture, what you see here. So here, angiosperm and gymnosperm are the two types of vascular seed plants. And angiosperm reproduce using flowers, but gymnosperm do not use the flowers. Instead, the seeds of gymnosperms are produced in cones, like here we are talking about the female cone and the male cone, such as those on the pine trees. This is an example of pine tree plant where you are finding this kind of things. So this is the female cone and this is the male cone where the sporophyte, that is the mature tree you are finding here. And gymnosperm, as I told, gymnosperms are the oldest seed plants during the time when dinosaurs roamed Earth. And gymnosperm were the dominant land plants where they first appeared on the Earth about 250 million years before. And the first angiosperm did not appear until about 100 million years later. So here, some gymnosperms are quite small, but others develop into large trees. In fact, gymnosperms make most of the forests that are located at the northern latitudes in the Europe and the North America. So these kind of plants we can see here also. Also there we can talk about the fruits, vegetables, grains, and most of the nuts which we eat produced by angiosperms, where one edible nut, the pine nut or pingoli, is gymnosperm seed that is produced by a certain pine tree. So here boys, with this we can move to the further part of the plant, further part of the lesson where we can see how plant use food or how do plant store their food. So here the plants they use the food they make to grow larger. You can see here in this, whereas the other that is about the plants use food to make seeds. Also here you can see about the plants store food in their stems and roots to use it later. This is the example of root plant that is of carrot, whereas this is the flowering plant where you are finding that stem is there. So the plants store food in their stems as well as in their roots to use it later on. And some plants where the food is stored in their fruit, which makes it tasty for animals. The animals eat the fruit and spread the seeds. So in this way, the plants they store their food. Here are the some pictures. What you see here in some plants, they do not get sufficient light or water, so they cannot make their food. So in that case, the plants store food in their roots, stems, leaves, flowers, as well as in the fruits. These are the different flowers. What you see here, some plants use their food. Also here, they are making the food by the process of photosynthesis. Here, the plant produce glucose, and glucose can be combined into larger molecules of carbohydrates and fats, where the carbohydrates and fats can added minerals from the soil to make proteins, and animals gain energy and useful material by eating these kind of plants. So in this way the plants they are making their food and it is being stored. So here as the plant matures, the size of the fruit, nut root and or seed increases, showing that, indicating that there is a food storage in that. Some extra food is also stored in the roots. You can see here leaves and seeds. So the plant's structure, what you see here in the picture, such as the seeds or the roots, nuts and the fruits, what you see here, they contain nutrients and have calories in that. So with this, I'm going to conclude here the today's lesson. I'll be back with the new video for the further part of the lesson. Till then, thank you.